Hello, Instagram. Hi, this is the, yes, here we go, look. Everyone's joining. This is the very first JLC Instagram Live. So bear with me, I'm literally a 40-year-old Instagram Live virgin. So if anything goes wrong, you can blame it on me. Because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. But let's hope that I do. Look, we're just going to start. Look, so many people joining already. I'm sure more people will join as we go. And for the benefit of those people who are going to watch this at a later date, hello to you. Let's just crack on. I've got to say, it's just a real privilege to be able to connect to you all. I can see that there are some, hello, EVB. There's some people here that worked on the show. There's a lot of people I can see who are in the industry. Hey, Vanika. A lot of people who work in theatre, as well as Tom. There's Tommy. A lot of people who go to the theatre a lot, or maybe saw Betrayal. Hey, Emma. Emma was in the cast on Broadway. And so, look, it is just amazing to be able to connect to you to talk about theatre. Of course, it's over a year now since the last performance of Betrayal on Broadway. Hey, Mark. Mark took the production shots. Amazing photographer, the best in the business. I think back on that time, that last performance of Betrayal, and those three incredibly honest and heartfelt performances. Was anybody there? Hey, Ben, one of our producers on Broadway. I know if anyone was there on the final night on Broadway, it was such a special moment. And who knew what the world faced? Who knew that how everything would change so much for all of us, for our friends and our family, and of course the theatre industry as a whole, and of course the entire world. And I just want to shout out to everybody in the Broadway community, the West End community. I've kind of been amazed by this sort of web of kindness and compassion that's been going on behind the scenes. Just people kind of texting and WhatsApping and messaging. Sutra says she was there on the last night. This amazing compassion and kindness, and people looking out for each other, going through this kind of really unprecedented situation. And I just want to send my love to all of you, to everybody in the industry that's watching, the thousands of people that literally, it's kind of this kind of interconnected web of people that work on each production. And of course, you, the audiences and the fans. Liddy says you can't wait to enter a playhouse. Yeah, me too. Let's hope that we can all get back and start to connect and to share stories together and to kind of be in that space together. And, kind of people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different ages, kind of coming together and being in that one theatre space is a totally unique experience and unlike anything else. But I'm sending love to all of you. I hope you're all doing all right. I hope you're all safe and well. We're nearly through this, it seems. Anyone in the industry that's watching, text me, let me know if you need a chat. I'm always around. In many ways, this is the hardest time, isn't it? We're kind of like waiting with such uncertainty. And anticipation for the theatres to reopen. So fingers crossed we get there. And I can't wait to welcome you all when the doors are wide open and with open arms and to see what we can create next time we're all together. So lots of love to you all, and thank you for joining us. There's almost 3,500 people here with us already, which is mind-blowing. We've got a group of people joining us individually this evening, and be ready with your questions. Let's have a chat. Let's have a discussion, and then let's get on with it. So let me see. I think we've got first up. We've got Sutra, but let me just look. How do I do this? Let me just make sure I'm doing this properly. Let's do that. Hang on a minute. Let's see. This is. There we go. I got it. No, I haven't. This is. So you see, this is the problem. You let a theatre director on an Instagram live, and inevitably it's going to go wrong. But let's see what happens. Is Sutra going to join us? Let's hope so. I think Arthur, my mate Arthur, is watching, who helps us with this kind of stuff. Arthur, you might have to help me. The request has been sent to Betrayal Broadway. I think is Sutra on the Betrayal Broadway account. I think that's what she's. Yeah. Well, Arthur is now texting me, everybody. Just thought this. I've done that, Arthur. And I think I'm just waiting for Betrayal Broadway to accept the request. Is that right? It says Betrayal Broadway is unable to join, Arthur. Shall I send the request again? Is Sutra on the right?
Hey, sorry.
You're there!
Sorry, I don't know
That's
what
hilarious.
happened.
There's me, like nearly 4,000 people.
I think.
Oh my goodness, are we even going to be able
gone.
to do this? That is absolutely hysterical.
I don't know what happened. You pressed something and I disappeared.
Oh, Sutra Gilmore, don't ever do that to me again. Here we go. Anyway, look, you're here. You're here.
I'm here. So sorry about that.
Arthur says, for you, we did it. Yes, thank goodness.
We made our first pattern change.
Yeah. So here we go. So hope that's the only problem of the evening. Sutra Gilmore is, of course, the set and costume designer, scenic designer and costume designer for Betrayal, and a lot of productions with JLC as well. We've been collaborating for, I don't know, you worked it out yesterday. When
14 and a half years, I think.
14 and a half years. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely mad.
Yeah, nearly 15.
And a lot of that, of course, has been on Pinter Productions, of course. Oh, what was that? Betrayal was the culmination of the Pinter season. It was a 6-month season in the West End in which we presented all of Harold Pinter's one-act plays, and also performed a lot of his prose and poetry and political speeches, and various other bits and pieces in special events as well, including a gala event. And at the gala event is when Zowie and Tom actually first performed a scene from Betrayal, which is how the production was started. I'm sure we can talk a little bit about that later on. But I think we worked out that apart from a designer called Eileen Diss, who works a lot with Harold originally on some of the original productions of the plays, you've actually designed the most Harold Pinter productions, I think. Harold Pinter plays.
Yeah, seemingly that's right. I didn't know that, but seemingly that's right. I mean, it feels like a little bit of a cheat because we did a lot of stuff in the Pinter season that weren't even plays. So right. In a way, it's not surprising because, what was there? It was about 32 pieces or something. And some of them had been TV plays and all sorts of things. So they weren't even stage plays. So I guess in a way that sort of instantly gave me a head start.
Yeah, and you designed the whole thing, of course. I mean, I didn't direct all of them. We had some amazing directors with us, sharing the kind of the workload of that entire season.
Yeah.
You designed the entire thing. I mean, how did you start to think about? I don't know how you even begin to kind of do that. Design 32 pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an amazing opportunity, wasn't it? We kind of to have a time in one theatre, not having to kind of move, and really just do something that was about Pinter, about all of the kind of the history of the pieces we'd done previously, all of those pieces and the space that we were in. And in a way, I think that for me, there was something about kind of creating a playground that would allow us to, us and all the other directors and actors that worked on it, to keep sort of playing with it and keep making it up. So it had to be something that was free in a way, that allowed us to keep changing. Or because some of those shows, we changed our minds really late with the designs. We were kind of practically in the rehearsal room and we were like coming up with new ideas and stuff. And that was across the board with all of the directors and all of the pieces, I think. So for me, it was about making this kind of Pinter machine, and having all the component parts that would really allow us to have lots and lots of flexibility. So we had our cube that could spin, but also had all these walls that could kind of pivot and do different things and come out, and different doorways and different windows, and we could essentially create almost any configuration with those. We had a couple of flying pieces, and the cube itself revolved right out sort of off the pros and into the auditorium, so kind of cut into the auditorium space, which of course we used so effectively in that first evening of those kind of really deeply bleak plays, and that kind of big muscular kind of grey multi-use multifunctional kind of irising box kind of gave us kind of brilliant way to start. But I think me, and we talked about this a bit, the box was kind of Harold, and everything that he might want to put in it was kind of available to put in it. So it had a kind of live quality to it. I think it felt like it was alive, and it could change, and and it was great, and it got all these different personalities. And then right at the end, we originally at one point we thought we might even use that for Betrayal, and then we kind of went, no, Betrayal's a kind of new moment. We need to kind of cut that, edit it out, and move on and do something new. But it was still a kind of brother or sister. It was a kind of sibling, I think, in a way, Betrayal, because it was in the same space. And so it was kind of in conversation with all of those really short pieces that had gone on. And as you rightly say, that gala, the kind of moment that Zoe and Tom had first worked on it, was in that box. And so it sort of felt right that the new Betrayal design was a kind of sibling to the one we'd already done. And it was completely different. Instead of the box and the volume and the turning, we were kind of landscape and long and low and a horizon line, and it was very different. But they kind of they felt connected, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I sort of remember that the as we went along the Pinter season, that it almost felt like we got more and more brave to be to strip everything away. Any kind of circumstantial detail to be even simpler as we went. And it sort of seems to me that certainly just because Harold's language is so economical and so precise. There's no fat, is there? There's no. You have to be, and you have to have a real discipline when you're performing those plays. That also informs the kind of staging in a way that you don't want to kind of. It can't be fussy. It can't be full of stuff. It has to be as precise and as focused as the language, ensures that the performances are. But I suppose we really went for that with Betrayal in terms of stripping away every circumstantial detail. And that certainly means that therefore everything needs to have a value. Everything that's in that space, every decision that is made, even every gesture, every little kind of move has to be kind of very distilled and very meaningful. There has to be thought behind everything that is seen in the space. And people were very obsessed with the chairs. I remember there were basically in that space there were these 2 chairs, and that was pretty much all that was in the space alongside the actors.
Yeah, well, it was so interesting, isn't it, with Pinter, because he's kind of got this inherent naturalism, but also this inherent theatricality. And so those things have to sort of sit together all of the time, don't they? And there's this kind of, we've talked quite a lot about, there's always a natural geography in the timing of the text, the kind of the speaking, but then going to pick up the beer bottle, or, coming and arriving and sitting on a chair, and all those things are kind of really in the delivery of the text. So you have to have the space around those things. So you have to have some things. I think that's what's always so kind of key, isn't it? And because we've got this really, really stripped back space, and also a space that had a revolve in it, and a revolve that, that was spent quite a lot of the show turning. I mean, not all the time, and so you had to have objects in it that could stand as elegantly as a person essentially can stand on a revolve, and that's actually quite tricky for furniture, because a person can move and they're live and they're breathing and they have all of the kind of, but a piece of furniture can get quite heavy weirdly in that scenario. And so the 2 chairs were sort of unbelievably key to find, I think, because they were going to be this extra character. Essentially, they were always there, and this kind of the movement of them through the space had to be kind of elegant. I had this sort of idea, and also it's interesting because in some ways the play always tells you, doesn't it? Because of course we had these domestic settings, but we also had this Italian setting, which felt like a really key sort of juxtaposition to everything. Unlocked a lot of things in terms of color and texture and choices. And so the chairs are Italian. I chose some chairs by a designer called Gio Ponti, and the thing that I really loved about them is, of course, they're unbelievably simple, but they're simple in a really, really clever way. So the legs go down to this tiny point, so there's actually only a very small amount of the chair is actually sitting on the ground on the stage, and so it's really light and elegant, and there's air underneath it, and there's no weight to it. And so they were sort of spinning kind of effortlessly and weightlessly, and I think that was really, really important. And equally, the kind of the feeling of Italy in the kind of in the walls. I think, you know, we chose that kind of pink plaster kind of wall quality, which was allowing us to be both outside and inside, but had that warmth in a way. Could be sort of bleak, like a flat that was slightly underdone, but equally could have this kind of lovely kind of warm Italian kind of you know, pink plaster wall quality. And so it gave the whole space a very particular kind of emotional tone, I think. And so yeah, so there was this sort of conversation between the kind of long lines, the pink kind of I mean, it's really subtle pink, of course. It wasn't bright pink in any sense, but this kind of subtle pink warmth, and these really elegant black chairs, and they had a very slightly tilting back as well that gave them a sort of energy that cut into the space. So they were kind of beautiful and sculptural in the way that the humans could be as well.
Yeah, amazing, and very beautiful humans too. We'll be seeing them all later on.
That's what I mean. I had a lot to compete with there for the 4 chairs.
And actually, it's so interesting. So many people are saying that actually the kind of minimalism of the space allowed the kind of complexity of the relationships and the kind of depth and the pain, the emotion to really vibrate in the space, which is absolutely the intention. So thank you everyone for commenting on that. You mentioned the kind of the paintwork on the walls, and I think in a way it's a good moment just to kind of again just thinking at this time of this huge community of people that is involved in every production, not least Betrayal, you know, behind the scenes. And, you know, I just want to say hello to everybody because, you know, I know like you, Suchi, you just miss these people so much, the people that we collaborate with. You know, collaboration is the key word, isn't it, in theatre? That's the kind of root of everything that we do. And the scenic artist, our brilliant scenic artist, was a huge factor in the kind of in the choices of the aesthetic, right?
Yeah, well, it's so important, isn't it? Because of course we make a model, and we present that to the scenic shop and the painters. But actually, ultimately, even though they've got the model, it's ultimately the painter's handprint that is on those canvases. I mean, it has to be because they're the ones doing it. And so you have this kind of wonderful dialogue with them about color and tone and texture. And then they get going, and then you go in and you note it and you say a little bit less of this, a little bit more of that. And, you know, let's do, well, that bit's great. You know, and you hone in on a section or something that's really kind of working. And you're like, yeah, more of that. But ultimately, it's such a kind of delicate conversation, and it's such a delicate relationship. And those walls and the sort of emotional temperature of them, in a way, became this almost kind of glue, in a sense of holding, you know, the holding place for this production. Not too bleak, not too warm, too busy, you know, sitting there just enough to give something, but not to give too much, not to say anything, but to say lots, you know. I mean, it's all of that stuff. And so it's a really delicate thing. And so when we had to make the new walls, because obviously we went much wider on Broadway, because the houses are much wider, sort of shallower and wider. And the Pinter is a kind of little kind of square volume of space. And then we had this kind of long rectangle of space. So we had to get these walls much, much longer. And so we had to repeat it. And of course, trying to repeat something you've done once and kind of hit the nail on the head is really tough. And so it was really important that it was Anna and her team who repainted those blocks. So they laid them out in a warehouse in London and repainted them. And we would sort of exchange lots of photos. And when they first started them, they weren't the same. I mean, it was kind of weird, even though the same people were doing them, the colours weren't quite the same. It was slightly more grey. So we did lots of noting on that to get that warmth back in. And then they were rolled up and shipped across to New York for the Scenic Company, for Hudson, to get them out onto the frames and onto the moving wall and all of those things. So yeah, but it was such an important thing to carry that same craftsperson with us, because I mean, and you know, even for like John, for lighting and all of those things, any sort of changes in that would have really upset the equilibrium in the whole piece, I think. So yeah, so everybody's handprint, everybody's choices, everybody's talent is so key. Especially in a weird way, especially once you're transferring, because before you've made a thing, you don't know what you're making. But once you've made it and we think that it works, then you've got to recreate it.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. And also let it evolve a little bit and
let it evolve.
And see what else is, you know, can happen. Amazing, Sutra. It's lovely to see you.
Really lovely to see you.
I miss you a lot. Nice to see you in your shed.
Here I am, late night in the studio.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Sorry, I lost you.
Let's hope we'll be back. I'm sure we will very soon, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next, and all the many ideas that you have. It's a real privilege and an honour to work with you all the time.
Let's get back into a theatre.
Yes, exactly. All right, amazing.
Have a wonderful night and send my love to everyone.
We will. I will. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Thanks, Sutra. Sutra there. Amazing. Hello, everybody. So we're just going to wait just a moment while we just make sure that the next person is logging on. We're going to hear from the entire cast tonight. So do be patient. I know that you want to see various people, and they'll all be here. Please, obviously, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of comments and questions, but do ask your questions, and we'll see if we can answer them as we go. But yeah, any questions now while we're waiting? Any? Yes, all of the cast, one by one, we're going. And here is Eddie Arnold. Hey!
How you doing, Jamie?
Oh, Eddie Arnold, I haven't seen you for so long.
Oh my God, was it all a dream? Was it all a dream? Tell me it wasn't.
It wasn't, but God, doesn't it feel like it?
Oh, like a long forgotten age.
The world has changed. My God, what everyone is doing to provide this is just incredibly inspiring. Absolutely amazing.
How you been?
Oh, good. Eddie, you've got no hair. You look so cool.
I know.
You're so edgy.
I heard that Stanley Tucci might be needing a brother or something, or Mark Strong, maybe.
Yeah, you could easily do it. Amazing. I love it. Eddie,
thanks.
Eddie, when you came into audition for the waiter, did you ever imagine that you'd end up, you know, going to Broadway with the production?
I mean, it was definitely the dream, wasn't it? It was the dream that we hoped, and then, you know, suddenly halfway through the show when we were doing it, there were whispers, and they became like louder voices, and then suddenly there we were, and I'm like, we're going to Broadway.
Yeah,
that's the most amazing, and the fact that and I went as well, like that was unbelievable.
Well,
like,
we wouldn't have had it any other way, Eddie. We were so determined. It's such a family, wasn't it? It was such a huge team. I mean, you can maybe talk about that. I mean, you were on stage for 5 minutes, and my goodness, like what a show stealing 5 minutes that was. I say. Very, very, very funny.
Yeah,
someone said you look very cute, Eddie. You do look very cute.
Oh, thanks, guys.
But Eddie, I mean, I suppose in another company, you know, maybe you might. I don't know. There was no sense of kind of them and us, was there? Or no sense of like it was
absolutely
literally a kind of real amazing group of people.
Absolutely. The beautiful thing with the play, because there were four of us there throughout the whole play, we got to experience the whole rest of the world of rehearsals, of spending time together, really close-knit which was an incredibly lucky experience. It was brilliant. It was just was so kind, and everyone was so nice. We got together a team that just clicked from day one, and we had the best time. I think Tom really pushed our limits when we did. He did like an exercise class. We got
Yes.
we got an exercise class going like twice a week at points in New York and in London, and he pushed us to the limits.
He was like everyone's personal trainer, wasn't he? I mean,
He, the man is a monster. The man is an absolute machine. We were doing like beast walking across the stage when you're kind of like on your hands and knees, but like crawling without touching the floor with your body. Knackering every single time we did it.
amazing though. And then Big Booty as well. I mean, these kind of games, these kind of
Big Booty. Oh my God. I mean, I think I'm addicted to it. I don't know what I've been doing without it. It was an absolute, it was a staple of, if we didn't do it, we couldn't do the show. That was how important it was to the whole piece.
We should just explain. Big Booty is it's like a kind of it's like a kind of pre-show game, right? A warm-up
Exactly.
game.
You all have a number, and then you've got to just fire the numbers off. Say your number, then fire a number off to the next person. And if they don't pick it up in time, then you have to go to the back of the queue. And whoever gets to the front of the queue is Big Booty. You know what? I can't remember who was left as Big Booty in the end, so I'm going to say that I was.
I think it was Zoe. I think Zoe.
She might have picked it.
I know that Jesmil and Zoe had a little. I think it was like a face-off at the end. I think
it was close. I mean, I think Tom held it for something like 70 days or something like that. There was like an intense period, and then someone would pip it, and we'd all have a little go at it, and then Tom would be back on it. But yeah, maybe Zoe had it. Maybe Zoe got it.
I think let's give it to Zoe.
Yeah. She did.
So New York. I mean, you were living in New York. I mean, like
living the dream in New York. I mean, not illegally, not an illegal alien, but I was definitely in New York, and it was unbelievable. I think rite of passage in New York were getting lost on the subway. Absolute minefield.
It is, isn't it? Why is it so difficult for? Maybe I don't know. I'm sure if you live there, it just is so easy, so effortless.
Yeah, but you would ask someone, they'd be like, "Oh, you just want to get the B and then get on the A train up to and change here." And I was like, "Yeah, but there's about 4 A trains, and I don't know where they all end up." And then I got lost so many times. So that was nice to find out. And then what else was? I mean, the choices, the endless choices of milk, of bread. I mean, start when you go into the shops. So that was all exciting. And iced coffee. I was addicted to iced coffee and bagels.
Wow. Yeah. It's very easy to be unhealthy in the middle of Manhattan, isn't it?
Yeah. But
too
actually,
many treats.
I was in Brooklyn. I was the only one of the cast who made it out, who ventured it out into Brooklyn. So
You're too cool for school. You're too cool for school.
Hey, you know, the Bushwick vibes. It was a great little scene out there as well.
And also our boy Nova, the barber down on the Lower East Side. When you had hair, if he's watching, if he watches this maybe another time, he's going to have the shock of his life.
Shout out to Well Connected. Thanks for keeping the hair there when it was there and making me look fresh every time. It was a real spot.
Yeah, the amazing Well Connected barbershop in Lower East Side, and then of course our boy Luke Lovett in London.
Oh yeah.
He did a great job.
That was the personal touch, because he would come into the theatre and do ours. I mean, you felt like a king doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was great.
Amazing. Eddie, now you played in Italian, and I think someone said, please speak in your Italian accent. You're not Italian, aren't you? With apologies to the Italian community. You're Colombian, I believe, British Colombian.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And representing the Latinx community in the
Big
West
time.
Broadway.
Big time. I embrace the Italian community for my part. I mean, I'm not Italian, but I've definitely been a waiter, that's for sure, in my past lives. But yeah, the Latin community in New York is strong. I mean, you could walk out of the theater and get yourself an empanada, arepa, whatever you want. Get yourself all your plátano maduro. Like, it was heavy. You could hear Spanish everywhere. In England, it's not so big. I mean, as an actor, as a Latin actor in England, I think there's sort of 5 or 6 of us that kind of go around on the circuit, and we all see each other at the same auditions, and it's like, who's going to get it this time? It's a really nice tight community as well, and it would be great to see more Latin theatre around in London, especially. I know that you guys did Evita, which was brilliant to bring in a load more Latin actors onto the scene here. The Royal Court do some amazing stuff as well. They've done some great plays, Chilean plays, Colombian plays. I spent a lot of my childhood in South America, so it's always nice to see those people represented in theatre.
Yeah, I think when we talk about representation, we should talk about the Latinx community more often. And I think you should, as you say, the community is, certainly performers is smaller in the UK, but there is a big Latinx community in the UK, and perhaps it's about encouraging
huge
community to get into theatre. Maybe we have to look at more detail about how to achieve that.
Absolutely. I think the more we tell the stories and learn about, who we are as people, so many immigrants have come over, like there is hundreds of thousands of just Colombians in the UK living in London. They've got so much to tell and so much to share, and it would be great to see that on stage at some point. Definitely.
Yeah, you're right. The key is the stories themselves, the writers themselves. Exactly right. But you did an amazingly respectful and very specific job of the Italian. I know that you worked closely with your friend, right?
Yes. Yeah. My Sardinian friend basically drilled into me her accent and made sure that I wasn't going to embarrass her. If she taught me, she's like, "You better be perfect." So I hope that I've done her and the Italians justice. It was definitely.
Did you get any comments? Were there anyone? And there's an Italian community in New York as well. I know that some Italians came.
Yes, yeah. They were all very polite and very complimentary about the accent. They said that never had they ever heard of anyone drinking Corvo Bianco in Italy. So, maybe Harold Pinter had a very specific taste in his wine.
It's become sort of legendary, isn't it, that they're drinking Corvo Bianco? I don't know why that is. Who knows? Maybe just like the sound of the name.
There was one part in the play I remember when Tom had the melon on the end of his fork, and he managed to deliver the whole speech and then flick it. The melon flew up into the air and landed perfectly in the wine glass. And so he then had to get me on whilst I was carrying all the plates and get me to bring another glass of wine, which we luckily had back there as well, just in case.
That is amazing. And there's so many things that inevitably, the joy of the live performances, so many things go right.
Love it. I love it.
Some things that you just want to keep forevermore. If only you could repeat them.
Yeah.
But anyway, Eddie, it has been a real joy to see you. I miss you so much. Just a great guy, great actor. And I can't wait to work with you again on something else in the future, Eddie.
Thanks so much for having me, Jamie. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you well.
Great to see you. See you soon.
Take care. Lots of love. Bye.
Amazing, Eddie there. One thing I didn't say is that Eddie actually understudied Charlie Cox's role, Jerry, in London. And then when we went to Broadway, he actually understudied both Robert and Jerry. So essentially learned 2/3 of the play, or essentially learned the entire play, because of course he needs to learn all his cues as well. So kind of a hero, and I don't think ever went on, but worked incredibly hard, and it really is a fine actor, as are indeed all of our understudies in London and in New York. If you're watching, hello to you all. Incredibly talented people, very, very amazing, works so incredibly hard through the entire run. And shout out to the associate director, John Glue, who rehearsed them and also looked after the show, maintained the show, both in London and New York. So, as I say, this huge team of people, literally thousands of people, working together to collaborate to make this. And incredible people at the top of their game in all departments. I mean, really, really special. Let's see who we've got next. Let's just let's do this again. And let's see who's going to join us next. Let's see who we've got. Are they going to join us? It sounds like someone's coming. Who knows? Theatre really is the best, says somebody. You're right. I agree. I agree. I can hear someone, but are you there? I don't know whether we got that. I don't know. Maybe we should just try this again. I heard someone join us. Did you all? Maybe. Let's just give it another go, and see who's going to come. Any comments or questions while we're waiting for the next person to join? Yeah, you'll see all of the cast. I miss live performances for sure. Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, like a lot of my I feel like increasingly my job as a director is to get out of the way of the connection between the actors and the audience, and that we all learn a little bit about what makes us tick. We learn something about our own minds in the act of witnessing theatre and sharing theatre. And it's sort of, I often think in previous productions of mine, I've done a lot, you know, kind of thrown a lot of stuff at the stage, a lot of ideas, a lot of visuals, and actually it's really Harold Pinter, directing Harold Pinter's work, that kind of really made me realise that actually simplicity is, you know, really key to that kind of connection. And kind of, as I say, getting out of the way, stripping away, and what is the bare minimum of that you can create a piece of work with. So that's certainly what we attempted to do when we were doing Betrayal. And let me just see if our friend Arthur has anything to say about why the next person is not coming. Let's see. What's next for JLC? That's Sam Black. Sam Black was in Cyrano. Well, hey, Sam, wouldn't it be good if Cyrano came back? We've got to get to BAM, right? We've got to get to Brooklyn. You know, let's. We know there's a lot of people working behind the scenes to get a theatre back. Let's hope that Cyrano can be a part of that. I don't know if anyone here saw Cyrano, but I can sort of hear that someone's trying to join, but they don't seem to. Are you there? Is someone there?
I'm here. Yeah. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can't see you. Charlie Cox. Coxie, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, I can hear.
Can you hear me? You can. Right, we can hear you, but we can't see you, Charlie Cox. And I know that there's a lot of people here who would love to see you, and I would too. I don't know what we're going to do about this. I don't know why that's the case. Is there something we need to do? Should we go to someone else first? Arthur. Arthur is keeping us all on track and is making sure that we're running as smoothly as possible. And anything that's going wrong is clearly not his fault. Yeah. Hey, here he
I don't know. I'm so sorry. I've no idea why.
I thought, you know, these kind of nearly 5,000 people are going to be so bored of me kind of waffling on about directing plays that.
This is my first ever time ever on Instagram, so you have to kind of bear with me.
I know you don't do social media at all, do you, Charlie? I mean, amazing.
I don't do social media.
That's probably.
But I do now.
You do now. Here you are.
Here I am on Facebook. If you don't know where to find me, check me out on Facebook Live, Instagram Live.
This is Instagram. That's the, yeah.
Sorry.
A good start. A good start. Charlie, it's
Jamie, how are you?
Do you know what? I'm good. This is such a lovely occasion, really. Just as I say, like during this time, you know, you just want to connect to people, you know, and like it's just so lovely to, you know, to see you all and to be reminded of this like very, very, very special occasion.
It's like it's been so never before would you be in a, you know, with people and be this intimate and that get that close and then literally not be able to see each other at all for over a year. you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you did get really close. I mean, I know that Zowie used to call you the kind of thruple because you used to hang around a lot, you know, like, and Eddie too. But like, you know, like there was a kind of magic that kind of happened, wasn't it, in doing Betrayal?
Yeah, it did feel that way. It certainly felt that way. I mean, obviously, you know, you always hope that when you sign on to any project that you make friends and you get on with some, if not all, of the cast. But we all of us have become incredibly close, and I actually think that we will, you know, we will stay very friendly throughout the rest of our careers, I would hope.
Yeah, and you knew Tom from the past, right? You.
Yeah, I knew Tom from many years ago, but we kind of, you know, he'd been so busy, and I moved over to America, so we hadn't actually seen each other for a long time. So that was kind of a reconnection, and that was lovely. And of course, you and I had worked together. Was it? I think it was 10 years prior, almost.
Literally, yeah, 10 years before. That's right, on The Lover in the Collection, which of course, was another Pinter play. Or a double bill of Pinter plays.
That was my first West End experience.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like? I mean, it was particularly special because Harold, of course, was around.
Harold was in the room. I remember. I remember. Do you remember we rehearsed at RADA, right? But we moved to Old Street. Do you remember we moved to Old Street and we did a couple of runs in the Old Street Town Hall on Upper Street? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Upper Street, yeah, it was at the Union Chapel, I think. That's right.
Yeah, and he came to one of our like run-throughs right towards the end of rehearsals. And in if you remember, I'm barely in The Lover. I kind of just come in as the milkman for a brief second. So I was sat watching The Lover next to Harold, and I was so nervous that what's he going to think? Is he going to like it? And I looked over at one point, and he was asleep. I was like, oh no! He was holding his cane like that, and he'd fallen asleep. And I was like, oh no, this is a disaster. And I felt terrible for Rich and Regina, and I was like, this is terrible. He's fallen asleep. And then I kept looking, and I realized that he was nodding along. He was listening.
Oh, amazing.
He wasn't asleep. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, almost kind of meditative or something.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, his kind of commitment to listening to the rhythm, the words, the kind of precision of it, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Amazing. But I mean, that's quite a lot of pressure. I know a lot of people have said it's almost like, I mean, it was like having Shakespeare in the room, you know, like having this kind of icon in the room and coming to see, you know, performance. I mean, that must have been in your head when he was watching a show, right?
Well, but who else who's alive now or would have been alive 10 years ago? Who else would have, you know, could have made you feel that level of, you know, I mean, he was lovely about it, but like, what other living playwright would you wish to do a play with, other than Harold Pinter? Of
course, but did it add any pressure? Was there a particular moment where you...
I was kind of I think I was blissfully ignorant. I hadn't been on stage. So I think going on stage becomes a little harder and you get a little bit more nervous once you've done it a couple of times.
Right.
But that first time I was apprehensive, but I was really excited. And I do remember though that you gave me, when I first walk on stage, I have a tray with tea and a kettle and a teapot and stuff. And I remember
back when we did props, but in the old days when there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly, when there were props. Yeah. And I remember on the first night walking in, and there was this, because I was so nervous that the teacups were like shaking, and I had to try and lean the tray against something so that it wasn't like rattling.
It kind of reminds me of like, I can't remember in London on Betrayal where was it like the second preview? I don't know, that
I know you're
one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Where, you know, there's so much atmosphere, you know, there's like kind of the pre-show music, and you know, there's like, you know, like the kind of the curtain slowly goes up, and there's this kind of like image of the three of you, and this kind of very atmospheric music, and then you get to your first you know, your first line, and you've got a beer bottle in your hand, right?
Well, the first line of the play,
well,
and I'm supposed to take a sip just before it, and I took a sip, and it went down the wrong way, and I couldn't. I went, oh well, and then I couldn't I couldn't. And Zoe didn't know what to do, so she just kept motoring on with her lines. And I was trying to say, it just got. It was,
I think you said, I think you even did an ad lib. I've got something in my throat. I've got something in my throat. And I just
I said, I got something
like
in my
literally like at the back of the circle, like literally crying with laughter. This poor guy going,
Oh, and I never ever got over it as well. Like that was performance 2 of something like 270, and every performance after that, right before I took a sip, I just was like, oh God, I hope it's okay. I hope I
really, every time,
yeah,
it's in your head.
Made me really nervous. That one moment.
Isn't it funny? But again, it's kind of like we were saying with Sutra, like every kind of moment, every single moment, even like when you take a sip, kind of actually means something, doesn't it?
Mm.
It almost every little tiny gesture like reveals something about the subtext, or something about the thought of the person.
Yeah.
So it has to be timed so specifically. And I think
Yeah.
maybe that's partly about kind of the fact that when there is nothing on stage, it almost becomes that everything is almost in close up. It's sort of very forensic, isn't it?
Yeah, what was it you used to call it? The macro and the micro.
Right? Did I?
Yeah, I didn't rehearse it.
But I mean, like, in terms of like with no stuff, basically, you know, other than each other. I mean, did that? I mean, that it's kind of easy for me to say, right? We're just gonna, you know, just this kind of minimalist space, and it's all going to be about all of you. I mean, how was that to negotiate?
It's great. Yeah, great question. I thought that I was, you know, apprehensive about that because having done that play, the Pinter play before, you know, there was you were able to kind of say so much of your dialogue whilst, you know, making a whiskey or, you know, flicking through a newspaper or pouring the tea, and there was so much business that you could kind of it helped you kind of, you know, throw away some of the dialogue. However, I actually found that when we did Betrayal, it was actually very freeing because it forced you to make every moment about the other person.
Yeah.
And I feel like I grew as an actor doing the play because of that, because you can't hide behind anything. You know, there's no moment where you can, light a cigarette. Well, I got to light one cigarette, but you know what I mean? There's no moment where you can make it about the business and hide behind some of the dialogue that maybe you don't quite feel like you've completely embodied or understood or inhabited yet. Whereas because we didn't have that luxury, I felt like, although it was frightening, it was incredibly free.
Amazing. Liberating. Yeah, brilliant. Well, next time you're in a play with like lots of big scene changes and, you know, lots of furniture, you'll be like, what's going on?
Yeah. What are these chairs doing here? What are we doing?
Exactly. I think one of the things is that, as we were saying earlier, that, you know, that Harold's language is so economical, you know, it's so sparse, isn't it? That, you know, therefore the kind of performances need to have that precision, simplicity, and real focus, real dedication. That takes quite a lot of doing, I think. You know, like I think people don't realize there's always a temptation to do more, isn't there? To kind of show the work. You kind of want to, you know, do the kind of big fireworks, you know, and all the rest of it. But actually, to hold it all in takes extraordinary discipline, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's right. I'm always with you know, I'm going to reveal my ignorance a little bit here, but when I remember reading the collection, and I remember rereading Betrayal when you'd asked me to do it, and my first reading of both of those plays was, God, really interesting. There's not much going on, is there?
Yeah, right.
And then as you kind of start to investigate it, and as you go deeper and deeper into it, and as we get to do it with someone like you, who is, if you don't mind me saying, an expert, in my opinion, on Harold, it's amazing how many layers the onion has. It's amazing how many moments that you just would have gone right over your head in the first couple of reads, but then you see how detailed that. Do you remember we had a dinner towards the end on Broadway, so close to 170 performances, and I'd realized that there's a lovely connection between two lines I'd never seen before until that moment, which is, you know, a year later of doing the play almost every day, where Robert asks Emma when they're in Venice, was he happy when you told him I was to be a father? And of course, when she does say that she's pregnant, I say, I'm very happy.
Oh, amazing.
And it's a small moment, but it's like it took 160 performances to see that connection.
Yeah. Everything is connected.
Mm.
Exactly. He's very clever. He was very clever.
Yeah.
Harold Pinter.
Yeah.
And of course, the part of the joy of the language is the rhythm, right? There's almost like a score, I always think, with his work. You know, you've got to hear it. Sometimes it's almost like music hall or like vaudeville, like this sort of back and forth. And that reminds me a lot of the squash that is talked about a lot in the play. And I think, did you played squash with Tom literally throughout the entire thing, didn't you?
Yeah. We played in rehearsals. He destroyed me in London. We then kind of dropped the ball a bit towards the end of London. And then when we got to Broadway, Tom suggested we play again. And I was like, right. So I took lessons. I took squash lessons.
It was so competitive, everybody. Honestly, it was kind of amazing, kind of very lovely.
But to be fair, both Tom and I are both competitive. So it was okay. But so I had a couple of squash lessons and picked up my game. And so towards the end, we were having some really competitive games. It was rackets were thrown. I'll say that much.
Wow. We've got an exclusive here, everybody. Yeah.
But on your point, playing of squash does help you understand the play a little bit more. It helps you understand, as you say, the musicality of it, the rhythms of it. It's so many of those scenes, particularly scene 4, feels like a bit of a squash game. You know, it feels like one shot, you whack it against the wall as hard as you can, and then the next time you just dink it in the corner and force them to try and get it. You know, it's really revealing.
And I think Tom said that actually that final game that you played was on the final Saturday of Broadway was kind of like emotional.
Yeah.
He was kind of, almost like as emotional as kind of, you know, doing the last performance.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that there's a kind of emotion in the squash.
Yeah.
And all that emotion. And then bizarrely, you what?
It was sad, and I was nervous. I was more nervous about the last game of squash than I was about the last performance. And also, we had a son born at the beginning of this year. And
congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, a little boy. And Tom texted me. One of the first texts I got was from Tom saying, "Your son will beat you at squash one day."
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. But you know what? It's so funny, isn't it? All that emotion that's on you know, in the squash court, but you know, it all has to be contained, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
All that kind of. I always find that so intriguing. You know, that it's almost like this kind of volcanic emotion, all this kind of angst, all this kind of stuff. You know, all these invisible lines to the past. You know, this deep hurt. You know, obviously, literally the betrayal and the multitude of betrayals that are in the play, and then you have to kind of come on stage and say something like, you know, how is everything?
and that, you know, it's that balance. And Sutra touched on this, I thought, beautifully when she said it's I can't remember the word she used, but she said it's at the same time it's very subtle and very theatrical. And that balance, I think, is what enabled us, the seeking of that balance in every scene, in every moment, is what enabled us to enjoy this play and continually feeling like we were being challenged right up until the end of the run, which was a whole year. You know, we were still looking for and finding moments. I was still looking for and finding moments where you could strike the right balance between complete honesty, but also Harold knew that life sometimes is also very big and can be very intentional, and finding that balance, I think, was, you know, I don't think I'll ever get there, but it was made the work so much fun.
Yeah, and it's so funny. He once said to me that all of his plays are comedies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. It's very funny, but it's a very funny play. I mean, and maybe it's so funny because of the pain. You know, like he kind of, I don't know,
it's
like you.
So strange. It's so strange being in a rehearsal for a play like that, where there's you and Sutra and John and like a handful of people who are kind of watching the rehearsals. So by the time you get to running it, no one's laughing. And then you do the first performance, and we had 900 people in the first performance, and suddenly there was people laughing all the time, and it was so initially it feels a bit rude, you know, you're like, it doesn't feel, and then of course you learn to kind of understand the rhythm of that and how it's all factored in some way, and you kind of learn to play with the audience and enjoy that. But it's a strange moment when that happens.
Yeah, so sort of, yeah, unexpected.
It's quite jarring.
I bet. Charlie, it has been a real joy to speak to you.
It's been so lovely. I'm gonna take one tiny quick story, because I just listened to you and Eddie. Yeah. Eddie cracks a joke, and you do on the stage. He cracks a joke, and I can't remember exactly what the joke is, but he cracks a joke, and Tom and Robert and Jerry, Tom and my characters, both completely blank him, just no reaction whatsoever, and he kind of goes like that and walks off stage. And one of the last performances, Tom and I decided that we were gonna, just for one performance, we were gonna find it really funny. And we didn't tell Eddie. And the look on his face, I'll never forget. He cracks a joke, and we both burst into hysteria. And he just didn't know what had happened. It was such a nice moment. But he was fantastic, wasn't he, Eddie?
Amazing. Yeah. Well, you all were. It was unforgettable. Charlie, Coxie,
thank you for inviting me. This is so fun.
Well, maybe this will be the first of many Instagram lives.
Yeah, exactly. Say hi to Big Booty. She's next.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Great to see you. Bye. Charlie Cox, you can go, Charlie.
Yeah. Hang on. How do I do that?
Leave. I love it.
How do I get out? Leave.
Leave. How do I get out? Press leave. Honestly, the fun, you know, kind of very, in a way, like 4 very, very different people, and everyone backstage as well. You know, lots of personalities, lots of, you know, really kind of big characters, and you know, and yet somehow kind of came together and kind of created this amazing family, and totally embraced as well by the Broadway community as well. There really is such a thing as Broadway community, and it's I'm sure that we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. But it's a very unique place. And hey, there's Kat Kingsley. Who else is there? We've got anybody else? Yeah, poor Arthur. I agree. Having to kind of keep us all in check. Anybody else? Any other friends here? Have we got any other actors here? Let's just kind of comment or say hi or something. But let's. It's so good to see you. It's so cool. What a lovely moment. Okay, let's. Oh, hang on. Right, that's. Oh no. Okay, here we go. I will get used to this. This is, you know, this could maybe be the first of many JLC Instagram lives. If this was something you were interested in, maybe we could get some other people involved. I don't know. Maybe who else would you want to see? Who else would you want to hear from? Maybe we could talk about some other productions along the way. That'd be kind of cool. Who knows? You know, we're working on some stuff. We're kind of developing some ideas for the future as soon as we can. So let's hope that we can get in the theatre sooner rather than later. Now, you're here, and I've sent you a request. So let's try that again. Betrayal Broadway. Okay. Cyrano, yeah, maybe that'd be kind of cool to do a Cyrano IG live. And here is Zoe Ashton.
Surprise!
You're here. You're here.
How are you doing?
I'm so good. Have you? They're saying I have to reconnect after an hour. Maybe that's the case? Maybe if we lose it, maybe Arthur's going to tell me this.
We can have an interval.
Maybe we have a little interval. I don't know. We'll see if we get chucked off. Then let's hope that the 5,000 people that are here will jump on again.
Hi, 5,000 people. This
apologies.
is my first Instagram live.
This is your first Instagram live.
I was saying hi to you at the bottom. Did you see that?
I saw you say I'm here, and I was like, oh, that's good. Come and join me. I've sent a request. Everyone's excited to see you. They're all saying hi, Zoe, and it's always so lovely to see you, and we go way back, Zoe. I mean, like, it's been amazing to collaborate with you for like many years.
Over a decade.
Incredible.
It is incredible. It is incredible because I feel like Salome, the piece that we did together, Oscar Wilde Salome, back in the day, was so at the beginning of your journey, which has grown in this incredible way. It was certainly at the beginning of mine. And so I feel like we've kind of grown up together.
Totally. Totally, yeah. And I suppose there was look, Arthur's saying that the Instagram limit is now 4 hours, so we're going to be fine. Great.
Oh, thank goodness.
Not that we're going to talk for 4 hours, everybody. I mean, you never know. But
I was kind of looking forward to an interval, kind of remembering the theatres being open.
Have you been watching the others?
I haven't. I couldn't. I was.
Couldn't get on.
I was working out with a personal trainer on Zoom. This is how exciting.
Oh my goodness. You're so glam.
I am.
That is amazing.
I didn't feel glam while I was doing it. But what's everyone been saying? I'm so glad that we're doing this. I'm so glad the gang are virtually back together.
It's just been a great time to reminisce about the whole thing. And as you say, kind of, think about what is so special. I just keep thinking about the sort of power of live performance to sort of help us understand the kind of complexity of our fragile and complicated lives. I mean, that's exactly what Pinter does, isn't it? You described it. I think I said you almost said you had a love affair with Harold Pinter.
With Harold,
your mind.
I actually had 3 men on the go during Betrayal. Yeah, it was just riffing on what you've just said and thinking about our collaborative history together. Salome was like a young woman lost, trying to find herself, restricted by male gazes and constraints of society. And then suddenly we get, do everything else that we've done. And then we get to Betrayal. And it's kind of been like a coming of age party moment. Certainly for me, you probably came of age much long ago, much before me. But it did feel like, oh my goodness, this is really going to be one of the first really adult explorations of the fragile human condition that I've done on stage that relates almost immediately to my point in my life and in my time as a woman, and all the dreams and desires and expectations that go along with that. So when we started, it was natural that I was kind of drawn to Harold because I was so I've always been interested in Pinter's women, as you know, and it just felt really key to get underneath his intention and to just commune with him. That was like a word I kept saying all along all of the runs. It was about just soaking up his intention with Betrayal, and of course once you start to do that you realize it's an extremely personal story for him. It had lasting resonances throughout his life, not just as a professional piece but also as a piece that contains so much of his own personal life. And he's a fascinating human being, writing other fascinating human beings.
100%. I mean, he really understands what makes us tick, doesn't he? Like, he really understands, and he understands that that there is that kind of we often use words to conceal what we think and feel rather to express them. We're always trying to kind of we often wear a mask, don't we, to kind of hide our difficulties or our pain or our anxieties or insecurities. And it's fascinating that you talk about Pinter's women, because they've had a little bit of a bad rap over the years in a way.
Yeah, and I understand why. I really do. And I think it wasn't until I actually stepped inside Emma in Betrayal and stepped inside our production and let the vibrations of his words move through me that I thought, no, there is a huge power here. there is huge nuance here. There's huge fragility here. There's the whole spectrum of human emotion. And so I know that they've got a bad rap in the past, but I wonder if it's just about actually letting his words work on you and work inside of you to really understand the absolute monolithic talent that he has and the way that he actually understands masculine and female energy and is actually really obsessed by it. You know, we talk so much about Emma's, well, we had to talk about all of the characters' beginnings and endings because obviously our play worked backwards. But she moves through the orbit of these two men into her own orbit at the end.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I could revisit all of the other Pinter women after doing Betrayal and go, oh, they kind of all do that in a way. And maybe we've had productions that haven't understood that on the nuance level that I know you understand it. Who knows? But then, Jamie, you're talking about masks and the way Pinter puts us in these incredible masks and, you know, represses our emotions. And we turn up on day one at rehearsals and we have no mask because we have no stage. we have the stage, but we have no props. We have nowhere to hide. So that in itself was this incredible push and pull tension. With Harold's repression and then this kind of ultimate freedom that we had on that bare stage, you know?
Yeah, and that's so interesting because Charlie talks about being liberated by having no stuff. And I'm sure that actually walking into rehearsals, as you say, to the first day, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, there really is nothing. Yeah. But it allows those kind of power dynamics, well, between all three, but certainly between the men and the women in these plays, you know, as you say, it sort of feels like that. You can those dynamics are amplified when there's nothing other than the people.
And look, maybe you've already talked about rehearsals. I'm so sorry I couldn't watch that.
No, we haven't. So please.
The rehearsal process, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all four of us, was one of the happiest of my life, if not the happiest. And the happiness came from what you've just said, being able to just sit in whatever truth came up for you on any given day and have absolutely no filter between the three of us. And then obviously Eddie, who comes on and, you know, completely blows everyone out of the water, gets the biggest laugh of all time, and then
and walks off again.
Walks off again. But in terms of that threesome, that throuple, to use our rehearsal nickname, you know, to be able to just feel each other and the characters through that unbelievably thin membrane because of no set was exhilarating beyond belief. And I think it excited us all, you know, it physically and emotionally excited all three of us because so often there's so much gubbin between you and your other actors and you feel like you've got to step on there and like perform something, but this was literally about all of us connecting to our truest selves and bringing it to the room. And I've said this so many times before, but I'll say it again, you'd be surprised how much trust it takes to do Betrayal.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant point, and I've heard you say before, I think that you know, it's called Betrayal, but actually backstage, you know, the title is really Absolute Trust.
The title of the play Backstage was Absolute Trust. And you are an ultimate matchmaker, I feel, in your casting. I don't think I would even call you and your, you know, casting team, casting people. I would call you matchmakers because you find somehow energetically the recipe that will work. And I know that there are people, we've talked about this, who actually want to do the opposite sometimes with a play like this. They want to put three actors in a room who are going to have some tension or electricity that's going to kind of fuel the darkness of the play.
Yeah,
I just don't know how you get results like that.
I don't understand it. I mean, I guess the individual processes and all the rest of the different choices that people make. But yeah, I've heard people talk about a kind of anti-ensemble where you throw a load of people in together that are not going to get along and they're all going to fight for their own corner.
Yeah.
And that somehow that's going to lead to fireworks. I mean, that just seems like sort of antithetical to everything that we try and do in the rehearsal room, which is, as you say, hopefully create an environment with the entire team, you know, with the sound team, with the stage, our amazing stage management team, who are all there to, you know, to kind of create this atmosphere, you know, of real confidence and, you know, make everyone as comfortable as possible and know that failure is okay. You know, trying some stuff out that isn't going to work is totally cool. And that, of course, then leads to, you know, new exciting discoveries.
Well, you know, in talking about new, just exciting discoveries, I mean, what people might not know is Broadway was a total surprise for all of us, wasn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
A lot of times you sign up to a show and it's like, oh, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, and you finish here. You're like, great, I can project this year of my life. And this was just like surprise after surprise after surprise. The transfer was an incredible opportunity to breathe new life into what we'd created, an incredible opportunity to test that trust between us again, you know, bigger stage, bigger audiences, more expectation, you could say, sometimes on Broadway, because of that absolutely relentless culture that you feed off when you're on Broadway. It matters, you know. And it deepened. I don't think we could have imagined it, but it did.
Yeah, it was a privilege, that, wasn't it, actually, to be able to kind of, you know, come back to a piece of work. And I remember we didn't re-rehearse it.
No,
did we?
I thought you were mad. I thought you were completely mad. You were like, no, we're just going to kind of reblock it for the space.
Yeah, just get on. Well, again, it's total trust. It's total trust in you know, those four artists on stage. You know, and also what I did really cherish was we had some really great discussions, some really great kind of note sessions after each performance.
Yeah,
and being able to really be forensic about tiny little beats, tiny little moments.
Yeah, that was heaven. And also the endurance of Broadway. You know, we all took our hats off to all of our American friends, you know, UK friends, European friends, the incredible community that makes up that square mile, you know, of New York City.
Yeah.
And there are shows that have been open for a year. There are shows that are all singing, all dancing, all sweating. There are shows that are blood, sweat and tears, again, running for these epic amounts of time. And we were kind of peeping in, weren't we? You know, we had our limited run and knew that we hopefully couldn't be shut down if everyone thought we sucked. And actually to feel like we could just keep playing was the most incredible feeling. And to feel welcomed by a Broadway audience, there's no feeling like it in the world. I remember scene one on that first preview. Do you remember? I think it was the first time I ever got a laugh in scene one.
I was always fascinated
ecstatic
about that, about the kind of American response. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier about, you know, as we were saying, that kind of the sort of repression of emotion, you know, kind of, it's very kind of English thing, isn't it? It's very English playwright in a way. We sort of, that very kind of stiff upper lip is not revealing what we really think or say. And I think maybe that's what Americans found so funny. It struck that first line, you know, Charlie says to you, so how is everything? And you say, oh, not too bad. And there was this big raucous laugh, I guess because the kind of all the anxiety and pain was vibrating inside. They could see the truth. And you just say, well, it's not too bad. Clearly you're having a terrible time.
It's so true. The American response, the American response to British repression has never been so clearly marked out as it was in scene one of Betrayal on the first night of our Broadway experience. But the other thing that was really interesting was, and you know, riffing again on this idea of absolute trust, if there were laughs, or if there were suddenly new places where people didn't feel as responsive as they did in London, probably because of a London reference or quintessentially British reference or something like that. We just had to hold each other with that kind of just, again, it was like all three of us had this electric rod that had been built in rehearsals that we could rely on to take us through absolutely any scenario on that stage. And it was a matter of just navigating that new audience and trying to like harness them and keep them with the production that we made in that rehearsal, because it's so easy to lean into a laugh or to get panicked if there's suddenly not the response that you're used to. And instead the three of us just had to key into this electric current and stay as true to the play that we made on day one in London, Black Swan Studios.
Amazing. Yeah, and you did that. I mean, the discipline and the focus. I remember saying, there's so much energy, isn't there, around Times Square and in Broadway, that whole kind of thing. It's electric, and it's very, I'm sure that it's kind of crazy to think that it's maybe not like that at the moment.
Yeah.
So devastating for so many people there.
Absolutely.
But that's when it comes back, I know it's going to be electric. But somehow when you step through that stage, or somehow we needed to find that kind of quiet. We kind of needed to find that kind of restraint and that focus, didn't we? And I was saying earlier that I don't think that people realize how difficult that is to achieve that, to kind of really connect very, very deeply to, as you say, the kind of like deep pain of the human condition.
It went very deep.
Keep a lid on it.
It went very, very deep. In fact, after we closed on Broadway, did I tell you this? I found myself having to cry at the same point as scene 5 every night for a while.
Oh, really?
The muscle memory of that play went so underground, because it had to in order to do Pinter's words, right? You've got to be really connected to the groin and the gut and all that, messy, interesting stuff that comes through those channels, and I found myself having to cry.
Interesting.
If I couldn't, I would kind of walk around a bit like a really bad kind of I don't know, mime or something, like going like trying to squeeze tears out to just get that exorcism and that release. And I would know what time it was, because we did that amount of time, that you could kind of sense, curtain would have gone up here, we'd be going into scene 3 here, and it would always be exactly the time that we would have been in the middle of scene 5, which is the big reveal scene in Venice, which is extremely emotional.
That is so fascinating, isn't it?
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
So weird, amazing, absolutely amazing. Well, it's not surprising. They kind of like the way you commit to everything, Zoe, it's so inspiring. You're a true artist, and that's why I love working with you. In fact, you plummet to the depths, you commit to that, but you do everything with such great wit. You're one of the funniest people I've ever met. I love talking about theatre and culture with you. I think you're just an amazing person. And to see that journey, it's so interesting. Like, I can't imagine anyone else understanding this more than you, in terms of Emma being totally liberated from any kind of... She's not defined... The men try and define her, don't they?
Yeah.
She is released from that. She releases herself from that. And then she goes her own way. She kind of is like walking off into her life. And
she owns the affair, Yeah. And I think there was always push and pull about that in the audience. And that was one of the other visceral experiences that I had on that stage, were the moments sometimes where I could feel people slipping away, going, I'm backing away from this woman, I think she's terrible, I think she's a home wrecker, or whatever. Or alternatively, people leaning in and going, I understand, I've been here, or I get it, on a deep level. And that was just incredible to sense. And she is unapologetic in so many ways. And again, I think I only could get there because of my boys, Charlie and Tom.
Yeah, good people.
It couldn't have worked going to those places if we hadn't have had this true, pure, real connection. So many times you find yourself having to do interviews for things going, we have such a real, true, amazing connection, and it's not true.
Yeah.
So it's sort of worth saying that there are times when you've got to kind of overcompensate, and then there are times like this where you hit the bullseye and you get to go to some depths you didn't think you could, because you're so held and so seen by your colleagues and by your leader. And again, as always, by Harold.
Amazing. Isn't it funny? We're talking about in the time of, ultimately real disconnection. We're talking about that real yearning for connection. And that is one of the things that, theatre, really allows us to experience in a connection with each other, backstage, on stage, and then most importantly with the audience. And as you say, when someone really goes, I understand, I've learned something about myself, or I've seen my life in that, that's when you realise, oh yeah, theatre is important, it is necessary, and it is exciting.
Absolutely. I'll never forget a lovely man who came up to me in CVS. I think it was after our third or fourth preview. And this is the other really exciting thing about working in New York. People really go to the theatre, not that they don't in London, but for whatever reason, I ended up bumping into so many people who'd seen the play everywhere in that city. I don't know necessarily what that difference is, maybe geography or whatever. But a guy came up to me in CVS. I can't remember what I was buying. Probably some kind of foot lotion, because I was throughout that brilliant play. And he said, oh my God, he was like, I know. Like the first thing he came over was like, I know your experience. And there was a guy, in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, communing with Emma's experience, going, I absolutely have felt that in my life. I've been trapped, I've been let down, I've been betrayed, I've gone in search of other things. We had like a therapy session in R7 of CVS.
Wow.
And he's not a woman, he's not a,
but he just felt
necessarily a Pinter expert, whatever. Yeah, and he got it.
Oh, remarkable. Amazing.
Yeah.
To be
really
cherished.
Amazing.
Let's hope we can get back and chatting to people like that.
I know. I wanted to say a huge hello and thank you to all of our incredible crew as well, Jamie, and all of
London
our
and New York
and friends in that community. We will be back. The atmosphere and the love and the soul of that place is too strong. We won't be away for long. I just want to send everyone a huge kiss.
You're amazing. You're so lovely. And perfect, Zoe. So good to see you.
Love you.
Can't wait to catch up soon.
Me too. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Okay, it's love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Amazing. You can sort of see like these. It's like a real reminder to me about the real kindness of these people. It's a lot of compassion, a lot of love. Very, very, very lovely people. In fact, the entire team. Again, just going to shout out to stage management crew, all the electricians, the sound team, the creative team, the producers, general managers, everyone in marketing, box office. Literally everybody involved, both in London and New York. Thinking of you all. Keep in touch. We will be back. Just can't wait to see everybody. Okay, cool. Everyone's saying thank you to Zoe. Such an amazing person. Incredibly, such an inspiring person. She will be doing some stuff with JLC soon. I'm sure we can announce it soon. She's just like a real artist. Okay, so I think Tom is ready. So Tom's going to join us now. Let's see if he's here. He should be here at any moment. So also have your questions ready for Tom. I'm just going to have some tea out of from my show merch mug. Oh, you're here. Look, I'm drinking out of a Betrayal mug for the moment, for the occasion. Mark the moment. T Hids, Tommy, how are you?
Lovely to see you.
Oh, what a treat to see you. It's been too long.
It's been a long time. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah, crazy. You've been busy.
I want to check. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet. But
If I put
But
headphones in, I think I've got such an old phone. If I put headphones
we can
in,
hear you though.
offended, because then I think
I'm pretty sure we can hear you. That's
is that
that's
better?
better. That's better. But
Okay.
let's see if Arthur, our friend Arthur, our hero behind the scenes of tonight, is. Let's talk again, Tommy.
One,
Yes.
two, 1 2
Hey.
1 2.
Perfect.
So is it weird if I keep a headphone in? So I feel like I'm being. I saw you earlier.
No, you look cool.
Saying a theatre director and Instagram Live is an interesting.
I know.
An interesting equation.
It is, but maybe I'll get better. Maybe I'll get better at doing it.
Okay.
Arthur says it sounds good. I was thinking
One or two. Is that for sound? I mean, does that sound?
I think it's the same. So whatever's most comfortable.
I mean, at this point,
I love it. Tom, this has been such a huge journey, isn't it? I mean, it's like.
By the way, it's amazing to see everybody involved, to see Sutra and Eddie and Charlie and Zoe, and hear all their recollections and remembrances. It was such an extraordinary time that I think of often in this past year of lockdown and the fragmentation of our social bonds and not seeing anybody and isolation. And the whole point of theatre is about connection and telling stories that connect us in a building, and we're all sitting in the same building. It's sort of, so I've thought about this whole experience a lot in the last year.
Yeah, no, I bet me too. Of course, it started as a gala performance. I remember,
yes.
As I was saying earlier, we did the Pinter season, celebrating or marking the moment of commemorating 10 years since Harold's death, by doing all of his short plays and then doing a charity gala in which you had to raise thousands for Amnesty on that night, which I'm very grateful for. But we ended up doing, of course, a scene from Betrayal, and that's how it started.
That's how it started. Amazing to think that was the spark of the first idea. I was so honored that you asked me to do it. It was an amazing evening that evening. I remember it very well. What was it, October the 18th?
It was on his birthday, yeah. That's right, his birthday.
His birthday, or October the 21st? From memory. 18th, yeah, the 18th.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
And you were in the middle of this extraordinary season of Pinter at the Pinter Theatre in London. And it was a huge celebration for... Oh, hang on. Sorry, my phone's wanting... 1 second, sorry.
Sorry, you're getting text messages. Your mate saying,
No.
Are you on Instagram Live?
Sorry. Yes, this amazing thing you did, which was to celebrate his work in the presence of Antonia Fraser, his widow, and there was all these actors who have had some connection or relationship to Harold Pinter over different generations. I remember some former members of Betrayal casts throughout the years. Jeremy Irons was there, who'd obviously played Jerry in the film, and Sam West, who played Robert at the Donmar Warehouse. Simon Russell Beale had done the Hot House, and who else was Indira Varma? Was she there?
Indira and Papa
Yeah.
Edu, yeah,
And
some really amazing.
she had done some Betrayal, I think. Emma in days gone by. Anyway, it was an extraordinary evening of celebration of his work, and Lee Evans was there, and it's very funny. And you asked me to do the scene from Betrayal, scene 5, between Robert and Emma, where Robert discovers, or has discovered, in a hotel room in Venice, that Emma's been having this affair with Jerry. But it's the most extraordinary confrontation. It takes about 10 pages, which isn't a confrontation at all. It's an invitation to admission. But I do remember it was this Harold Pinter's got such a comedic gift. Some of his plays they're very deep and very profound, and about love and loss and power and in an evening full of a lot of laughter, this had this extraordinary quality of silence in the room. And we rehearsed it for 10 minutes, I think.
Less than that, maybe. Yeah,
Less than that. And it was really interesting, just because we read it, obviously, we read it in front of microphones. And afterwards, I remember Antonia Fraser saying to both of us, perhaps you'd like to do the whole thing.
Mm.
And it suddenly was a very exciting idea, because it's such a beautiful play. I'd read it when I was at drama school. I'm fascinated by its kind of brilliance and its structure. I've always been. I became age appropriate faster than I thought I would, but that's the nature of age. It feels like I read it and thought, oh no, that's a long time away before I'm the right age for that.
Yeah.
But yes, and then I remember you being at the table with Antonia, and Antonia saying, perhaps you'd like to do the whole thing, and you leaning across and going, well, maybe we should do the whole thing. and I went away and read the whole thing, and then I think quite quickly we were on, weren't we?
Well, I remember speaking to you literally the next day. I think I sent you the play the next day, and then the day after that, I think we sort of pretty much said, let's go ahead and do it.
Yes.
Amazingly, you know, we were all available, and that the Pinter was free, so that we could do it in, you know, as a continuation of the season. And that's kind of this sort of magic. It was so effortless. Things aren't always like that, are they? In terms of projects,
it never happens
as in
like
life.
that. It never happens.
Often
like
there are obstacles. Whereas, like, and also I remember us talking about who should play Jerry, and that we had both thought of Charlie, and that he wasn't originally available. Do you remember? And then
yes.
And then he then became available. It was almost like kind of, wow, this kind of karma of this is just kind of amazing.
It was extraordinary. Yeah, it never happens that way, where all the people you want to be involved, and it happens without, almost as if the road was already paved in some way. Extraordinary magic and a very auspicious beginning. And I can't believe it turned into almost a year and a half, or in terms of our preparation, but a full year of performance of this one singular play.
And over, I think it was like over 270.
272, I think it was. I may have misremembered that, but it was 12 weeks in London, 17 weeks in Broadway, and it, you know, to do the same thing 272 times is an extraordinary act of repetition and investigation, in that every time you do it, you find something else. Like playing a great piece of music, you think, oh, this movement is, by the way, I can't play great pieces of music, so I don't know why I've used this analogy, but
just keep going, keep going.
But it's to taking little moments or little motifs or riffs, I suppose, that recur through the course of a piece. And I imagine in that repetitive recitation, you find more depth every time. And that's certainly my experience with this play, was that I would start to almost feel the structure. I would sort of feel the structure of the play like a physical entity. You feel like you're inside, you're under the hood, as it were, of the car. You're inside the engine. You just know exactly how the engine works. And the more time you spend with it, the more connections you can make. And that's the end of my mixed music and automobile metaphor.
Is it you? I don't think you had done Pinter before. I don't think you've
No, I'd never done Pinter professionally. No, I'd done a bit at school.
Right. And were you surprised? Were there any particular demands? That, you know, being in a Pinter play. You know, what are the demands of being in a Pinter play? What does he require you to do? What was the kind of what was interesting about doing his work?
Everything. I mean, he has an extraordinary ability to excavate under the surface of things, under the surface of words, actions, and behavior. And he, I think, is a very, very much a playwright, probably of the English psyche. I hope he wouldn't object to that. In fact, that's unfair. I think it's a human thing. It's beyond the national identity. But what I was thinking of when I said that is some playwrights, older playwrights, Elizabethan playwrights, where the meaning lies within the words. If you're doing a Shakespeare play, the characters tell you what they're feeling often, in the most beautiful poetry, and they say what they mean. Whereas Harold Pinter's characters, the meaning lies beneath what they say. Characters often don't say what they mean. They say something that's in conflict or contradiction of what they mean. And the great joy of playing Pinter is that you're doing both at the same time. So you're investigating the subtext, or as you and I used to call it, the subwoofer.
I love the subwoofer. It makes so much sense.
The subwoofer, yeah. There's a bass line that underneath, to carry on my musical analogy, there's a bass line underneath everything, which you need as an actor to tune into, a kind of frequency of things that are under the surface, which are primal and deeply human. And they are about love and loss and grief and betrayal and power and desire, all these incredibly human things that we experience, and the part of the experience of being alive. And over the top of that subwoofer, that bass line, are these melodies and grace notes, which often are, in contradiction of what the bass line is, which makes it very fascinating acting challenge, because you have to summon what's underneath. You have to summon the subtext, and it could be extraordinary pain, extraordinary loss or suffering. But you also have to play what's on top of it, which can often be very light, very dexterous, very civilized, very well-mannered, charming or comedic. So at any moment in the Pinter play, a character could be charming and menacing, or seductive and in retreat. And those are thrilling tensions to play within Pinter, and no less in Betrayal, in these complex dynamics between these very complex people, Robert, Emma, and Jerry.
Yeah, amazing. I think one of the we're so used to kind of thinking about Harold's plays as being about the battle for supremacy, this kind of like these kind of power battles, this kind of and this kind of menace. But actually, it's interesting that I think what was really remarkable about your performance was this kind of real connection to the loss and the pain underneath it, and your ability to really go to those, plummet to those depths, was just kind of remarkable. And I seem to remember you saying that there are clues in the text which why.
Yeah,
why
there are so many. There are clues in the play. Always listen to the playwright. He'll tell you what you need to know. The play is called Betrayal, and that's the first clue. Is an actor diving into that, you have to go, okay, what does that mean? Betrayal is painful as an experience, and there are all sorts of ways betrayal can emerge in your life. You can betray yourself, you can betray another, you can betray a lover or a friend, you can betray your ideals, you can betray someone's trust, and so there was already I love that excitement of having to dig around in this very profound human feeling. And particularly Robert, what I always found in that first reading at the gala was that here was this incredibly controlled, on the surface at least, a very controlled, charming, collected man who was intelligent and professional. He was successful in his life, a respected publisher, and underneath the carapace or the facade of that composure is someone whose soul is completely shattered. And so the challenge was to present that, the mask of control, but also investigate the vulnerability behind the mask, And one of the big clues I always found was this conversation between Robert and Jerry in the fourth scene about whether boy babies or girl babies cry more. And there's one way of reading it, which is that, because at this point the audience knows that Robert knows that Jerry's had an affair with his wife. And so there's a lovely dramatic irony and tension between what's happening on stage and what's happening in the audience. And the audience is aware, like, what's Robert going to say? Because he knows. And Jerry has come over to Robert's house. So there's this truth that's hanging in the air, which hasn't been spoken, which is an affair with the woman upstairs or wherever she is. We never specified it. And Robert gives Jerry a drink, and that's right, she's just putting Ned to bed. So Emma is putting their son to bed. Or is it their son? There's a paternity question in scene 5. You know, when he finds out the affair's been going on, he says, how long? And Emma says 5 years. And Robert says 5 years. Pause. Ned is 1 year old. So there's already a challenge to the actor. What does that mean? Robert has to do the math. Who's the father of our son? But in the previous scene, Emma's putting Ned to bed, and Robert decides to start discussion with Jerry about boy babies and girl babies. Isn't it true that boy babies cry more than girl babies? Wouldn't you say? And Jerry's a bit perplexed, certainly in Charlie's, my esteemed colleague's performance, he sort of doesn't understand why this interrogation is happening. But I always thought that was a clue about Robert, it's Pinter telling you that Robert, this boy baby, cries. And he cries painfully and deeply. But when across the course of a performance do you show that stuff? So yeah, that was over the 17 weeks in New York. The pleasure of it was that there are these, the music of Pinter's play is so precisely delineated and so carefully mapped, and to play it from the beginning to the end every night was a pleasure. It was never the same, and the audiences themselves would bring their own experiences in. You know, every individual and every audience brings in a life experience, which they are carrying with them into their perception of the play. And then there's an alchemy which happens between all those individual members of the audience to create a character of the audience that we can feel across the footlights. We can feel what the energy is, and that's a thing that is unique to being in a theatre. It's a
to the live
thing.
performance, and also the kind of unpredictability of that, isn't it? I mean, that's what's so amazing, as you say, like the kind of depths of what you all achieved, but also the kind of, we also had a lot of fun, and also, as we said earlier, like,
That was great.
you know, Harold himself saying that the plays are all kind of comedies, that they're all very, very funny, witty plays, and sometimes things can go a little bit awry as well. Right? Sometimes things can go a bit wrong.
Yes. Well, of course, you know.
Was there anything that kind of was? I mean, I know that there were. I read them from the show reports. I don't know if everyone knows that. You know, at the end of every performance, our brilliant stage managers always write down, you know, what went on, so that directors and producers and all the rest of it and the rest of the creative team can kind of see what happened. And there were definitely some things that were quite interesting. Do you have any particular?
Oh, endless. I mean, endless. That for me is the thrill of the live event, of the theatre, is that I still get the thrill of it as an actor and as an audience member myself, which is, this is happening right now. It's not happening before, it's happening in front of me. I can see it, I can hear it. There's an atmosphere in this room. I can sense it in some way. And it's so thrilling. It's thrilling to feel it. I think audiences respond in different ways. And of course, things go wrong on film and television all the time. And I'm so lucky that I've been able to do that as well. And occasionally you get a blooper reel. But when things go wrong in the theatre, everybody's there to witness it. And there's a kind of magic about that moment because it reminds you that it's live. It reminds you that real life is spontaneous, and that spontaneity is really the source of so much. God, I mean, I suppose the things that the constant the constant challenge for me was with this melon in the seventh scene, which I think Eddie mentioned. I mean, so many things about that scene can go wrong. Already the stakes are extremely high. Robert and Jerry have agreed to meet up for lunch. The question in the audience's mind is, will Robert confront Jerry with the confession that he knows about the affair between, and these two old friends are meeting for a civilized lunch in an Italian restaurant. And there's something in Robert's suppression of his pain and anger and fury, which gets displaced into, firstly, the waiter, the great Eddie Arnold, but then the food that they're eating and the wine that they're drinking. And so I don't know how this came about in rehearsals, but something, because in the text, of course, Robert's anger is displaced into a tirade about the demise of modern prose literature, and how there's two men of books and letters. Jerry's a literary agent, Robert's a publisher, but modern prose literature isn't what it used to be, and it's certainly no comparison to the great poets, W.B. Yeats in particular. And at the same time, they're eating these starters, I suppose, slices of Meloni or prosciutto and Meloni in Robert's case, and drinking excessive bottles of Corvo Bianco, which you have to make sure as an actor you've got drunk, so that by the time you ask for more, you've drunk it. So it is a technical challenge, but this melon, I would occasionally, the sort of Robert's aggression would be taken out on this piece of melon, and depending on the ripeness of the melon on any particular day, it was a very slippery scene partner. At one point, I think Eddie mentioned it went in a sort of perfect mathematical arc into my wine glass.
Yeah.
At one point, it went into the audience, which I think was a bit of a surprise for the front row.
So, like, someone got
but
it
there
on
was one occasion.
face.
Yeah, someone sort of landed a piece of melon lands in the lap, It's like extra dimension to the performance.
I'd sell it on
but there
eBay,
was
quite
one-
frankly. I'd be making some money out of that.
There you go. But there was one where I was in the middle of this rant about modern prose literature, and the melon slipped off I stabbed it with the knife, and it slipped off the fork, and it went onto the floor, and instinctively I just pushed my chair back and bent over and picked it up and ate it. And I heard this extraordinary gasp from 1,100 people, 1,200 people, over 1,000 people. Get a sort of like, ooh, and the noise of 1,000 people gasping is significant. And then I looked into the eyes of my esteemed colleague Charlie Cox, which were very twinkly, because he sort of couldn't believe, A, that this piece of melon had slid onto the floor, B, that I had picked it up and eaten it straight away, and that it got this reaction from the audience. And then it looked like we might both lose contact with the play and lose contact with the scene, because I love Charlie so much, and we've experienced so much together, but he's one of the few actors in the world who, if he starts to laugh, he's got the malicious laugh, and I could see laughter rising in him. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to finish the scene. And there was a pause, and then the audience clocked that exchange between us, and they laughed. And then I think Charlie turned to them and pointed at me, and they laughed again. And I turned back and I had to look down to compose myself. and I can't remember how it was broken. We both took a sip of wine at the same time, and then there was a spontaneous round of applause. But I think, apart from just something going wrong, I think the applause was nothing to do with us really. It was the audience's delight that they were watching something which was live and real. They were witness to it, and they were included in this magical moment which didn't happen the night before and wasn't going to happen the next night. And I feel that that's the best thing about live theatre. I mean, there's so many other things. Once we broke a wine glass accidentally, and we had to get Eddie back on to bring another glass on. Or people would repeat the same lines.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, but it's amazing, as you say. That's what makes it so unique. It's so special and unforgettable, isn't it? You just literally don't forget those moments as an audience member. And I'm all for that. Like it's all all those things that happen. That's all. It's all good. That's all part of the fun of it.
And I
isn't
think
it?
I had a friend in that night actually, who came back, and he said the pleasure of that moment was so pure, as distinct from anything else. You don't, of course, you go to the movies or you watch things on television or on streaming, and things make you laugh. But if you go to the theatre and you're part of that moment, that's a uniquely theatrical thing. It happens because it's live, and it's very special. It's very special for everybody, I think. Yeah,
very special. The talking about very special, I've got to say, I mean, like, here we are. You're nominated for a Tony. You made your Broadway debut. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
I still can't quite believe it. And I just want to thank everybody who has made this possible. And I'm so honoured to be nominated for a Tony. It sort of can't. It doesn't feel quite real. It never does. Because I started acting when I was a teenager in school plays, and the idea that one day I'd be nominated for a Tony Award, which is just sort of, the gap from there to the gap from A to B is so, it feels like trying to long jump across the Pacific Ocean. And I'm very, very honored to be nominated. I'm an extraordinary company. My fellow nominees, all amazing actors. And congratulations to you too, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very
nominee.
I'm very honoured, and for the entire team. And what I love about the kind of Best Revival nomination is that literally is for everybody. And I include all of our friends in London, as well as all the people that work so amazingly hard to make it happen in New York as well. But being a part of that Broadway community was just incredibly special.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It is. The idea of Broadway when we started Betrayal was, we didn't even think about it, and that's where we ended up, at the Jacobs Theatre on 45th Street, from August to December in 2019. And there is something absolutely magical about the energy of those people on that island, in that city, on that street, those streets leading off Times Square, 45th Street, the Jacobs, we shared dressing rooms with the Majestic and the Golden. And I remember I had a dressing room on the first floor. So every single performance I'd be getting ready and putting on Robert's things. And I would have my windows open, and I would always hear the guys outside front of house at the Imperial for Ain't Too Proud. And I would say, we always hear him calling out, ain't too proud, come on, come walk this way, ain't too proud. And that feeling of being part of a community and a tradition of acting and performing, which is respected across the world. And it is really unique. And when other plays open, on Broadway, the companies of every other Broadway show send these signed good luck messages to the company who are opening, and we receive that. And there's a very unique energy which I found very touching and poignant to reflect on in this period of lockdown, because it's all about our social contact. It's all about making connections. And the difficulty for everybody in this last year has been that to keep each other safe, we've had to break those connections in some way. We try to keep them going remotely, but to be in crowds, to be in audiences, to be in the same building, connecting over the same thing, laughing at the same line, being moved by the same thing, and it's very touching to think of, and especially all those people. It's worth mentioning almost all of them who made it possible, and the people who often aren't, you know, who dedicate their so many hours every day, which add up to weeks and months and years and decades of service to this extraordinary art form. People like Frank Lombardi, our stage manager, and Diane, our producers, Wendy, Orshan, and Jeff Wilson, Bruce Klinger, our company manager, Ianth, who greeted us every evening, Danny Paul, our dresser, who, you know, makes sure all our clothes were clean and pressed, and or made sure our props, you know, Freddie made sure the props were all ready. Mike and Matt and our New York producers, Ben Lowy and Tony Marion, and many, many more that I could
Gavin and Gareth and Adam Spears and Emily.
Gavin, Gareth,
I mean,
Adam, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so many people behind the scenes who make this possible day in, day out, who make sure there's just enough, you know, orange coloured sort of, what would it be? Sort of hazel coloured liquid that looks like whiskey in the glass every night. Or make sure you're not going to walk on stage. Yeah, not going to walk on stage without your wedding ring. You know, because it's a play about the dissolution of a marriage, and God forbid you walk on stage without the wedding ring. And Rick and Michael and Kendall, who are so much a part of the experience at DKC O&M, and the Schuberts and Bob Wankel, you know, the Schuberts who own that theatre and who allowed us in at such short notice. And I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anybody.
I mean, literally, I mean, like, we will have missed somebody, and apologies, but it really, I mean, the real
Matt
gratitude.
And Mike and Dylan and Jess Mill. I know, I
amazing.
think you mentioned Jess Mill before, but Dylan and Jess Mill, who came in to be to be, you know, our understudies and join in with Big Booty every night. It really didn't have to do. It was very sporting of them. And people, you know, it's an extraordinary thing every night as well. I have a funny memory about walking out of the stage door every evening onto 45th Street, and in some of the most clement and balmy weather that New York can offer in the fall, in September and October, in shirt sleeves, and greeting people who wanted playbills signed, which is such a Broadway tradition. And also you get to know, this is what's amazing about Broadway, is you get to know the mounted police who are there just to make sure everybody's safe. And they're so much a part of the fabric of the community. And because there are so many crowds of people, they just need to make sure people are safe. And they all want everybody who's there, from security to front of house to people who are working at the bar, or selling drinks, or taking coats, or in any way helping this thing happen every night. They want people to come away from the experience with a warmth and a sense of meaning and purpose, that they were a part of something. And that takes such an extraordinary collection of human energy. And I feel very moved by that. I was very moved by it at the time. You know, an English company coming over to New York, and we were so warmly welcomed. And I think there is, you know, we just have to sort of pay our respects to it, because at this time, I know Broadway's been through, the community's been through a very, very difficult period in the last year. And I think that human energy is vital to our society, and I can't wait to see it come back, and to be there myself and go and support other Broadway shows. So yeah, I feel very grateful to everybody. and it's lovely to remember it. God, we had a good time.
We had
Fun.
We had a great time
Yeah.
with all of those people, both on the West End and on Broadway.
And it's a unique thing. It's a unique honor to join the lists of those actors who've performed on Broadway. It's a deep honor, and none of us take it for granted. I know that, because especially us as actors, you sign up as young people because to do something for a living that we love. You never imagine that you're going to perform at the heart of New York's theatre and have access to everything that New York brings with it. I mean, New York is such a wonderful city, and I know you talked with Charlie about it, but being able to run down between a matinee performance and an evening performance to a squash court in Midtown and then run back in time to have a bite to eat and do the evening performance, or go for a walk in Central Park and then come in, have an idea about the play, or be reflecting on what happened last night. And if there's a parade and the traffic gets shut down in the city, and you walk down the street and you feel like Manhattan has become pedestrianized because there is no traffic because of some parade, and it was an amazing thing, and I feel we were so lucky, just so lucky and fortunate to do it, to be invited to be there. And we had extraordinary houses. We had amazing audiences, full audiences. I'm aware of how fortunate that is, to have full houses who want to come and see this English play about three people who love each other and hurt each other, and it goes backwards in time. And there's a bit with a bitter melon. And
amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And when you say
How
crowds,
do you feel that,
people,
Jamie? Crowds. We're all desperate to get back to life in that way.
I mean, I just think of all the freelancers here in London and all those people in New York. I just think, and everybody. I mean, the whole world. Obviously, there's been so much suffering, and I just hope that we can move through this now, and get back into those crowds and get back into those,
Yeah.
just have those experiences again.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will.
I know you agree with me, but I think there's something very moving about being part of a large group of people, and knowing, I'm sure everybody who works or has been to a theatre, or everybody watching this art conversation, everybody joining in, we've all been somewhere in our lives where we felt part of a group of people experiencing something that feels bigger than the individual, and it's actually being part of that crowd that has a kind of transcendent quality, and to feel a part of something that's bigger than you is very important for human beings. I think very important for all of us. You just want to kind of get lost in the crowd and be part of something. So yeah, I can't wait for a time when we've somehow we've found a way to live with this situation we're living with, and those crowds can come back and Broadway can re-emerge.
Yes, exactly.
Resplendent and triumphant. Yeah. But we had so much fun. I'm aware. I don't know how many people are watching now. Is it about 5,000 people? I probably talk for too long. People have got bored. But I'm aware that I'm aware that just grateful to you guys for tuning in and listening to our reminiscences. I think, Jamie, didn't you decide to do this today or this week because it's the 2-year anniversary of starting rehearsals? Is that right?
That's right. Yes, I think we would have been I think we would have been still in the rehearsal room 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, kind of crazy to think about it. It's like Eddie said, it's almost like a dream. And then exactly a year ago, we were in rehearsals in the same rehearsal studio for the Seagull, which we managed to do 5 performances of before lockdown. And I'm hoping that we can bring that back with Amelia Clark and Indira and amazing company of actors. So hopefully that will come back too, and hopefully we take Cyrano to BAM too. So there's lots of stuff that we're planning. Lots of, as I can see, all sorts of people here that were with us tonight. You know, Lindsay, our great stage manager in the West End, and Danny, our amazing
Lindsay.
security guard. So great
Yeah.
to see, and
They all
Evie, our great producer from London.
Oh, everybody's watching.
Former
That's
producer
sweet.
Jersey. Yeah, so cool. And look, we've got to, I think we should go now, and we should just, as I say, thank you so much.
Well, Jamie, I
everybody,
just want
for joining us.
to. Yeah, you.
Go on,
Sorry,
go
you
on,
go.
Tom.
You go. You say we.
No, go on.
Well, I just want to. I just want to thank you, honestly, because you had the vision to put this whole thing together and see it through, and you know, you asked me and Zoe to do the gala reading and put the gala on and create this experience, which has been meaningful for everyone at lots of different levels. And amazing. I know for all of us in the company, we'll never forget it. And you made this happen. You made this possible. And it's very, I'll just never forget it. It's a hugely meaningful memory for me, the whole year of my life. And I really want to thank you for that, for your kindness and care and clarity and trust. And you trusted us so much, trusted me and Zowie and Charlie and Eddie too. So yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to know you. It's a real honor to call you a friend. I think you're a remarkable human being, an incredible actor. You know, I think, you know, I've read somewhere that someone said this performance places you up there amongst the greats, and I really truly believe that, Tommy. I can't wait to work with you in the future. I genuinely mean it. He's an amazing man, and you're all incredible people. So brilliant, everybody, to share this with you. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much to the team, everybody at JLC, everybody on the team there, and everybody at ATG, Adam Spears, and everybody for supporting us.
Yes, again, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam, so much.
All of the team in London and New York. Anyone that we haven't mentioned, again, huge thank you. It's amazing. It's like cause and effect, isn't it? Like everybody plays a role. It's like everybody's such. You know,
this is a team game.
Yeah, 100%.
4 people on stage, or 5 if you include Emma and Phoenix, who played Charlotte. But
amazing young actors. We could keep going all night, Tommy, and I would love to talk to you all night if I could, T-Hits. But really lovely to catch up, and I hope to see you in person soon. And we can say goodbye. We can say goodbye to everybody now, and thank you to Arthur, who runs the JLC.
Thank you, Arthur.
Social.
Thank you, Arthur.
Yes, thank you for keeping us in check. Everybody behind the scenes today. And also, as I say, perhaps let's do this again. Maybe we'll do some more JLC Instagram lives or something if that's interesting. But who knows?
JLC is Jamie Lloyd Company, yes?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, because you said JLC a lot, and I was like, JLC, was it?
Oh, you just wanted the clarity.
Yeah.
This is weird. I have to say my name.
No, well, I can say it. JLC is the Jamie Company, the company at the forefront of British, I should say, international theatre. The programming, the glamour, the mystery, the progressive,
culture. It's a culture.
The culture. Absolutely,
it's a big,
at the vanguard.
It's a big team of people that are making it happen.
But look at what you've done, Jamie. You've done so much in the theatre in the last 5 years, the last 10 years. But look at where you've given so many people so many opportunities, and I think you've changed the way theatre is made. So my hat goes off to you.
Thank you, Tommy. That means a lot. As I say, there's so many people that are doing that, you know, with us, and it's a privilege to work with them every day. So I can't wait to get back and creating more theatre for everybody. All right, I'll sign off. All the best to everybody. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you so much. See you very soon. Okay. Good night. Bye. Now we're going to leave. Here we go.
Okay.
Good night.